the disappointment and the amount of time I put into the Tea Party was devastating to me on a personal level, and also on a level of my involvement as a citizen. I thought I did everything I was supposed to do to change what I didn't like in DC, to have an effect. I love where I live. I live in Carroll County, Maryland. I raised my family there. I run my very small business there. I'm very happy with, I interact with the commissioners in Carroll County. I interact with the town mayor. I interact with my state legislators. I feel like I have a say. I spent all this energy. I made phone calls. I organized events. I went down to DC. I did all this stuff that I should have been at home spending time with my kids. And I was part of this Tea Party movement. And I was like, okay, we're going to make a change. We're going to have something that'll push back against this growing monster of control that's inside that beltway down in DC. And as we all know, nothing changed. Nothing happened. And I was incredibly distraught to the point of the verge of depression. And then I heard about this thing called Convention of States. And I won't bore you with the progression, because most of you who are either in this room or on this Zoom call have probably gone through the progression. Wow, that sounds like a sketchy idea. Well, maybe it's the last idea. Yeah, this is the only way. This is the only way we're going to have any pushback in DC, and that is the way I envision Convention of States. It's actually the framers put a valve in there that we can actually access and pull when we need to. It's like a break glass moment, where when there's too much power centralized, there was a way to bypass that power to make changes. And that's really all Convention of States is. And I'm going to have a Marco Rubio moment and get my water. Sorry, thank you. I tend to be a dry person. Thank you, excuse me. So I saw COS as the way that we could actually create a point of leverage back against Washington, D.C., without having to deal with DC. And that's really what Article 5 is. And I think I would assume that everyone in this room is familiar with Article 5, but for anybody who's zooming in that you aren't, Article 5 is what the framers put in the Constitution so that we could change the Constitution. We have 27 amendments currently. All of them came via Article 5. That's the only way we can amend the Constitution. So we've got the way that we've used 27 times, which is quick lesson. Article 5 allows us to amend the Constitution. 2/3 of Congress, the federal Congress, the Senate and the House, propose an amendment. They propose it. They agree that 2/3 of the representatives of the states in the Congress, both sides, Senate, House of Representatives, propose an amendment. But 2/3 of them have to agree that yes, we want to amend the Constitution. It then gets thrown out of Congress and it goes back to the states. 3/4 of the states, which right now would be 38 at 50 states, 38 of the states through their general assemblies need to say, yeah, we're in favor of that. We like the idea of that amendment. We want to do that. That's how we've gotten the 27 amendments we currently have to our Constitution. There's a second way to do that. George Mason, 2 days before the end of the Continental Congress of the Constitutional Convention back in 1787, stood up and said, all right, so we've created this way that we're going to be able to amend the Constitution, but only the federal government gets to amend the Constitution. And he says something very, one would think, not very controversial at all. He says, well, wait a minute. What if the central government gets too powerful? They're never going to create an amendment to, put a restraint on their own power. That's just not going to happen. And everyone at the convention thought to themselves, that's absolutely right. There's only one topic at the Constitutional Convention that was not debated, that was unanimously agreed on at the point of being brought up. And it's the fact that Article 5 needed a second clause where someone, the state legislatures, needed a way to amend the Constitution without involving the federal government. So if the federal government gets too strong, there's a way to push back. The citizens can push back through their state legislatures. This amazed me. I thought myself a student of the Constitution. I'd read the Constitution many times. I think probably most of us have. It's a tiny little document. It's really quick. It's a little handbook. It's easy to read. I'd read it many times, and I never quite picked up that Article 5, there's a second part of a way we can actually amend the Constitution. It's never been used. It's very hard to do. The framers intended it should be very hard to amend our Constitution. It's the law of the land. This part of what has amazed me in my involvement in 3 years with the organization is the fact that whenever you say, well, it's never been done, so there's got to be a reason it's never been done. It's got to be dangerous, this, that, and the other thing. There's all kinds of objections we run into when we're promoting Convention of States. I'm not going to go into them all. My time is limited, but I wanted to bring up the fact that one of the main ones I run into that I always find entertaining is, well, they're not following the Constitution now. Well, actually they are. The problem is, this is the Constitution that the framers gave us, and it has 27 amendments, and they all fit in this little book. And as a matter of fact, the Declaration of Independence is also in this tiny little book. The problem is, this is the Constitution that is being followed by our federal government. It is a 12-pound, 3,000-plus behemoth filled with every court case that has happened at the Supreme Court level since our founding. That is what we need to pull in and restrain. So if anyone ever tells you when you're talking about a Convention of States that we, well, they're not following the Constitution now, they're not going to, there's no way that a Convention of States are going to let that happen. Technically, they're following the Constitution. They're not following the Constitution as the framers envisioned it, but they are following the Constitution as it is now known. And that's what we want to put the limits on. We want to tie that back in. We want to put it back in the box. And that's why I'm part of Convention of States. That's why I spend my time. I'm not sure how much more time I am supposed to spend. I believe we had a special guest arrive. Bob, would you like to come and say a few more? All right. So fine. Excuse me. I got it. In conclusion, I want to thank everyone that's here. Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone that's on this Zoom call. It is greatly appreciated that you've taken time out of your day to sit and listen to us and be part of this movement. One last request I have. We have been inundated with volunteer requests. The team is growing. It's triple this, as C said, it's triple the size that it was. We are onboarding new volunteers left and right. You don't need to be an expert at anything. If you're willing to spend time with this team, we will get you involved. If you've actually filled out that volunteer form, or you filled out a leadership role on conventionofstates.com and you haven't heard from a Maryland person yet, give us a couple days. We will get back to you. We are just inundated with volunteer requests, and I can't thank you enough for that. I mean, it is thoroughly honoring to have so many people wanting to get involved.